Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the show that's all about speaking your truth, sharing your stories, and sparking the conversations that matter most. I'm your host, Rodney W. Collins, and this is the Speak On It Show. On this show, we dive deep into the thoughts, experiences, and ideas that shape our world. It's a place where voices are heard, perspectives are celebrated, and discussions are not just encouraged, but cherished. Whether it's culture, politics, personal growth, or just life's everyday adventures, we're here to explore it all. We've got engaging interviews, thought-provoking discussions, and sometimes we might even stir the pot a little bit. Speak On The Show is where we challenge the status quo, celebrate diversity, and engage in conversations that make us think, laugh, and grow. So get ready to be inspired, get ready to connect, and most importantly, get ready to speak your truth. Without further ado, let's jump into today's episode. It's time for the Speak On It Show with your host, Rodney W. Collins. Good morning, good morning, good morning. Welcome. Rodney W. Collins, Speak On It Show. Every Saturday morning, 10 a.m. Eastern, 7 a.m. Pacific. First and foremost, giving honor to God who allows me to come at you in this manner on a weekly basis. How's everybody doing out there? I hope y'all had a good week leading into this weekend. Hope you got some good plans. Hopefully your weather's good where you can get out and do some things, depending on where you're at in the nation. Let's see, we got a good morning already. Sabrina Wooten, good morning, cuz. Appreciate your support. Thanks for tuning in. Brian Hoodie, good morning. Appreciate you. Thanks for tuning in. It's been a busy week. I know everybody's been out and about. Weather's been bad in some places. You got a lot of windstorms here and there, rain, all these different things. It's that time of year, with the different changes in weather. But summer's on the horizon. We can ready to get some good weather. We can get out, put your shorts on, go out and barbecue, do those type things we do in the summer. But I wanted to go back real quick about something I talked about last week when we talked about white fear. And, it's one of them things when you get into these discussions about the racial breakdown of things that are going on right now, there's a lot of people get offended. And when I talk about white fear, what I talked about last week is why the fear is the browning of the country. And when I talk about Roland Martin's book, White Fear, the Browning of America, and all those different things, as I said, and I unapologetically talk about these things, but as I said, if you were offended, then you need to make the changes you need to make. If it was something that doesn't affect you, then you need to take the time to deal with those people that you know that it does pertain to in your family, in your friendships, in your whatever you want to call them, your situationships or whatever. It's up to you to make those changes. We can't be, the onus cannot always be on black and brown people to make these changes in America when we know these things are going on around us. Just want to put that out there. Trent Branch, good morning, my brother. Good morning. Appreciate you. Thanks for tuning in. Thanks for this continued support. So it's a straight talk Saturday. Straight talk. And in straight talk, I usually try to give it to you straight. Give it to you, what's going on in the world, what's happening, and give it to you from my perspective. James Battle, my brother, good morning. Appreciate you. From my perspective, but I'm pretty sure some of y'all will agree, some won't agree. But this is what we do here on the Speak On It Show. The Rodney W. Collins Speak On It Show. What we do is we get the information out there. If it pertains to you or if you want to chime in or whatever, feel free. You can put it in the chat. I'll put it up on the board. We can talk about it and everything like that. Most of you that tune in know how the process works. For those new listeners, I want them to be able to tune in. We've been at this for coming on 13 years. September will be 13 years we've been doing this. So, I'm not new to this. I'm true to this. Let's just be real with it. Reggie P. Rowe, my brother. Good morning. Appreciate you. So, a lot of things going on this week, and I'm not going to do our normal in news or anything like that, but I do want to start off with this. Where'd it go? I want to start off with this. We're in the Target fast right now. Headed up by the pastor of New Birth, Pastor Jamal Bryant. We're in the midst of this thing. You know, I told y'all last week and the week before, we got this website you can go to, targetfast.org. You can go there. You can track how much of these companies are losing because we're not spending our dollars there, and so on and so forth. You can go there and look at it. You can sign up, and they give you updates on what's going on and everything. But I as I mentioned last week and I mentioned the week before, some of us participate, some of us don't, because they don't think it's going to be or make any difference in what we're doing. But as anybody's been watching, Target has been impacted. I don't know what the full numbers, but Target has been impacted by this Target fast since they eliminated DEI, not just because of what's going on right now, but in conjunction with that, Target is being impacted on their, bottom line, which is a good thing because we're getting our message across about them eliminating DEI. And then they were putting all the, vendors who are Black-owned vendors on their shelves. They put that stuff on sale, I guess, so they wouldn't have a stockpile, whatever they were doing. This is the website you can go to. And this is the list of the ones that are coming up. We got March, the 8th to the 14th? 7th to the 14th. Amazon, Nestle boycott, 21st to the 28th. Walmart, 17th to the 14th of April. 18th, economic blackout number 2. And then April 21st to the 20th, General Mills boycott. Now, somebody asked me about Nestle and General Mills. Well, Nestle, anything that Nestle makes, that's a lot of candy, a lot of chocolate, all those things, boycott it, don't buy it during that time. It's just some, if you don't understand it, just go ahead and research it. Find out what it is. General Mills, cereal brands, Nestle has cereal brands, all those different things. Just take heed to what we're trying to accomplish during this time. That's it. And some will participate and some won't. But those that don't, let me just put it out here for you. Those that don't choose to participate, I don't want to hear you later on. I don't want to hear you later on, like I'm going to get ready to talk about now. I don't want to hear you later on complaining about what you're not getting, what ain't going on, what's not happening because you didn't participate. If you don't participate, be quiet. If you do participate, be loud. Be loud. We need to get the word out on what's going on. All right. So let's go on and get into this. I just lost my train of thought, y'all. In this first one, I found this article, and it says, Trump Latino voters want Black folks. Hear what I'm saying. I want to read this clear. Trump Latino voters want Black folks to join their fight. But is it too late? More than half of Latino voters chose Trump back in November. So now, what's changed? This is an article I found by Phoenix S. Haley, and it was on Monday. And basically what it breaks down to, and I'm going to read some of this, but what it breaks down to is the Latino voters who voted for Trump, 50% of Latino voters voted for Trump, are now asking African-American Black voters to join them in this fight against what's going on to try to get everything changed. Now, I'm not against anybody at any time. You choose what you choose to do when you choose to do it. But don't come ask me to get on board with you after you've made a decision. Or let me just say it this way. Don't come ask me to be on board with you when you wrote a check your ass can't cash. When you see these things that are going on, because some of you are Latino voters, let's just be real, we're all about the immigration. Get them people out of here. I got here legally. They should be getting here illegally. They should have to come here legally and so on and so forth. You know the conversations that was going on that side. But now that it's starting to affect them in other ways, not just the immigration part, 401ks as a whole. People that got 401ks are losing money in the stock. People losing money in the stock market as well. All these different things that are going on, and we're going to get into that when I talk about Project 2025, because I think people need to get an update on that. But when we talk about Latino voters wanting African-American voters, Black voters to come and help them and march with them and do, where was y'all at when we was asking y'all to help us out? Now I'm just putting this out there. I ain't against nobody. I'm just asking a question. I want nobody to get mad at me. I mean, if you mad, you're mad. Mark Cheeks, my brother, good morning, appreciate you. But where were these people at when we went to the polls? Where were you at when you went to the polls and you chose to vote for him, knowing everything we told you, tried to warn you about, was already there. We told you. That's all I'm saying. We told you. Miss y'all on. Good morning. Appreciate you. Thanks for the support. We told you. And me and my buddy Josh always say, I tried to told you, but you didn't want to listen. This is one of those situations. With President Donald Trump enacting mass deportations, attacking birthright citizenship, and targeting other civil rights, some Latino Americans are organizing to protest these clear human rights violations. But in their call to action, many are begging the Black community to join their fight, and there's a couple issues with this. On TikTok, Aaron Robles called on Black people to join Latinx efforts. And this is what it says. Do you know what would happen if we had the Black community rocking with us and protesting with us, he asked. Several Latinx organizations, including the Freeze Latino movement, have called for boycotts against companies supporting Trump's anti-immigration mandate. Where they been? I mean, where you been? Sure did. Good morning, Jackie Diggs. Good morning. Appreciate your support. Where they been? So now, the things ain't going your way. Now you want us, who've been telling you all the time. Let me stop there. Let me just say this. If an African-American Black person tells you someone is racist, believe them. Believe them. And I say believe them because we've had enough experience with the racism in our lives, different experiences. All of us have had different experiences just because of our melanin content. Believe us when we tell you that we can spot either a racist or a person with racist tendencies. We've seen it, we understand it, and we've lived it. But now, the things ain't going the way Latinx wanted to go after they voted for this guy. Now they want us. Where was y'all at? Let me just ask a question, just a quick question. What was y'all at during George Floyd and Black Lives Matter? Just a question. Was y'all the ones saying all lives matter at that time? I like to ask these questions, rhetorically. Kevin Banks, my brother, good morning. Rhetorically. But it's a question that needs to be asked when, we were going against the things that were happening to us in our communities and everything. But I don't remember, maybe in pockets, but I don't remember this big outpouring of us saying, Latinx people, y'all need to join us in this fight. Because why? Because if you were going to join, you would have joined. But now that the shoe's on the other foot, and now people that you voted for don't have your best interest in hand, now you want us. This is why, and I'm jumping around, but this is why Black women say we're going to sit this one out. After the election, because I think people are starting to miss these two. I'm just gonna put it out there. I think majority of Americans are starting to miss these two people. You remember Sleepy Joe? That they call him Sleepy Joe. He ain't seem so sleepy now, does he? Everything Joe Biden was doing was for the betterment of everyone in this country. What Kamala Harris ran on was for the betterment of everyone in this country. But y'all chose not to vote for her. Kevin Banks, they all thought that the racism was directed only Black people. I didn't say it, Kevin Banks did. I ain't say it, Kevin Banks said it. But y'all remember her? Oh, Kamala. Oh, how they miss you now. how they miss you now. But these are the same people who want us to join forces with them to go against who they voted for because they didn't want her. And as I've said many times, they didn't want her, not because of the policies that she presented. Let's just be honest. Not because of the policies. Had nothing to do with policy. Because of how she looks. Because they allowed this man to convince them that she was going to do anything and everything to make America not great again. And what we're seeing is the works of a man doing everything to make America great again, per se, for those with deep pockets. Those with deep pockets. And this is where we're at. This is what's going on. But James Battle said Kevin Banks is right. Yeah, put that on Kevin. I ain't say it. Let me say what he said again. They all thought that the racism was directed only towards black people. Kevin Banks said it. Don't y'all at me, at Kevin Banks. Jacqueline Diggs Barnett. She said, we won't go back. Well, we're back. It's laughable, but at the same time, it's disheartening. I read a survey, and I wish I had pulled it up. I read a survey where there are a large amount, I'm going to say a large amount, of Latino, Hispanic people in this country who push themselves to pass as white. I don't know why. I guess because they can get in where they fit in. I don't know. But when I read this article and I heard about this, I said, I got to talk about this. Because it's ironic to me that you're asking us to get on board with what you're trying to do. But when you notice, when Jamal Bryant's got the Target ban going on, and we talk about this ban on, the initial on Amazon and all these different things, I haven't heard them say, we're going to jump on board on that. And I'm not trying to do this to divide. I'm doing this to make a point for people to open their eyes to the fact we in this fight by ourselves, y'all. I mean, as I always say, you're an ally or ally. This is nothing against those who are in the fight with us. But we've been fighting this fight too long not to understand that we on our own in this. Because it takes for something drastic like this to happen for them to realize, oh shit, what did I do? Hey, black folk, can I holler at you for a minute? Y'all been through this before. And see, we really ain't prepared, and we didn't know at the time, but can we talk to y'all? And maybe we can come together to do something to make this right, to get it right? No. Now I say that jokingly, but no. If you're going to join us, it's on our terms. It's on our terms. Because we've dealt with this too long. We've dealt with these kind of things too long. This is what Texas Rep, I love this moment. Texas Representative Jasmine Crockett put it clearly. We need our allies to show us that they're going to have our backs going forward before we can say, oh yeah, we're jumping in head first, she told the Root. For her, other minority groups dropped the ball during the 2024 presidential election. And this is where the number comes in. More than 50% of Latinx people voted for Trump, according to exit polls from NBC News, while 80% of Black folks showed up for then Vice President Kamala Harris. And we can't excuse that 20% of us that didn't show up. Because I'm putting them in the same category as the Latinx 50%. Just saying. And this is what Jasmine Crockett also said. She said, what we're looking for is for them to be willing to talk to those that weren't on our side. What we need to know is that we've got those brown allies that will go out and talk to other brown folks and say, listen, we have our civil rights because of the civil rights movement that was led by black folks. As many Latinx people continue to call on black folks for help, there are others who are urging their own community to get it together. The black community doesn't owe us anything, Latina TikTok user Cynical Optimist said. You're asking where the black community is when they're the ones that tried to avoid this. She continued, I think it's time we learned to save ourselves. Black folks have always been champions for civil rights for all, way before Trump took office. And history shows us we haven't always gotten the credit we deserved for it. And to add even more wood to the fire, the Latinx community has historically battled with prejudice against black people. A study shared by the National Library of Medicine found 55% of US-born Latinos rate black Americans, ready for this? Let me say it again. A study shared by the National Library of Medicine found 55% of US-born Latinos rate black Americans as lazier than they rate Latinos. Now that's over half at 55%. But now you need us. Now you want us. But we lazy. We lazy. Woo. My, how the tables have turned. Now, don't get me wrong. When I talk about this and I chuckle a little bit, it's because I'm getting ready to get into something now that I've talked about, as I mentioned. I talked about it for damn near 2 years leading up to the election. Almost 2 years leading up to election. And now, in the infamous words of Malcolm X, the chickens have come home to roost. The chickens have come home to roost. And not only is it affecting us, not only is it affecting Latinx and any other minority in this country, it's affecting white folks as well, who didn't think they would be affected, but it's affecting them too. As I mentioned, 401k, stock market, all that kind of stuff. It's affecting them too. It's affecting them too. And what I'm talking about is Project 2025. And y'all know I don't like putting this man's face up on here, so I'm going to make it smaller. Project 2025. I talked about it. There were writings about it. There was 900 pages in this book that people just didn't want to take the time to read because they said, they said he would not do it. And what we're seeing now is what they said he wouldn't do in action. In action, from everything, and I'm going to go through some of these things. I don't want to go through all of them because there's an article I found that says 37 ways Project 2025 has shown up in Trump's executive orders. And mind you, he's done all these things in executive orders because they gave him the power to be able to do these things by executive orders. Because he feels he can do these things because why? The Supreme Court gave him immunity for the things he does in office where he can't be held accountable for. See, we can't forget these things that have gone on with the Supreme Court, with the House and the Senate. And I digress for a minute. Let me just go here. I want everybody to pay attention. Pay attention to the Democrats that are folding and buckling under what this administration is doing. Case in point, the bill that was passed in the House the other day that's going to cut Medicaid. Cut Medicaid. Went to the Senate. Chuck Schumer, the Democratic Speaker for the Senate, said he would vote to pass this because if he didn't pass it, it would give Donald Trump more power if they shut the government down. Now, I'm going to say this. If there was any time that the government should have been shut down, it's right now. It's right now. And they came up with this thing, well, it will give him more power to overdo what he wants to do in the government and take over these offices. He's doing it anyway, and you're not doing anything to stop it. Put up some roadblocks. But rather than put up roadblocks, we have Democrats going along with this So when it comes time to go and vote again, we need to keep mental notes. Keep it in your mental Rolodex. Just like the 10 that voted to censure Al Green because he stood up during that state of Congress or speech to Congress or whatever it was, and they told him to sit down, they escorted him out. Those 10 Democrats that voted to censure him along with Republicans, we need to remember their names too. And as we get closer, believe me, I'm gonna have their names, their states that they're in. And so we remember when it comes time that maybe we need to put somebody in there to run against them for the Democratic ticket. Or we just need to look at an independent getting in there and taking over in that position. Because the Democrats and the Republicans at this time have no interest, from my view, of helping the American people as a whole. It just doesn't add up. But I digress. Let's get back to this. 37 ways Project 2025 has showed up in Trump's executive orders. Now, these are the things that the 2025 dealt with, and I can't really see it. So, but you know what? I can enlarge it. Let's go here. Let's go ahead and read this stuff here. Project 2025 also plans to end the current norms and policies that keep the Department of Justice and the FBI independent from the White House. This will allow the president to interfere with how both agencies are led and operate, and to use both agencies for self-serving political purposes. He could put his loyalists in control and use the agencies to go after anyone he perceives as an enemy. These changes would also allow for executive branch involvement in how election-related federal offenses are investigated. Now imagine a repeat of the big lie and January 6th, this time with all these changes in place. If Project 2025 is successful, what limited Trump's power in his first term may not exist to stop him again. And these are the 4 pillars: a playbook, 900 pages, as I said. Well, a playbook of teams and transition plans, a private database of far-right loyalists who want to work for Trump, a presidential administration academy to train future appointees how to use the government to advance their agenda, and a 900-page mandate for leadership that creates an agenda for a new Trump administration, completely reforming how much of our government operates. And we've been through this before. Take away our reproductive rights, abortion. End programs that address climate change. End public education, Department of Education. Persecute LGBTQ plus Americans. Encourage racial discrimination, DEI, getting rid of all that, Civil Rights Act. Mass deportation and reduce immigration. Insert Christian nationalist ideology into the mainstream. Give unchecked power to the president. This is what we're talking about. Project 2025. This is nothing new, but people chose to act like this couldn't happen. 37 ways Project 2025 has shown up in Trump's executive orders. President Donald Trump on the campaign trail last summer disavowed Project 2025, as you remember. He said, I have nothing to do with it. I don't know anything about it. I don't know what they're doing. I've read it. No, all that he said. But now they're putting these things in action. Many of the conservative blueprint ideas have made their way into his early executive orders, signaling the sweeping impact the Heritage Foundation document has already had on the Trump administration's policymaking. A side-by-side review by Politico found dozens of cases where the president's early executive actions have aligned with portions of the 922-page policy document, including some instances with nearly verbatim language lifted from the report to the White House. But I'm going to go back again. Because when we were talking about Project 2025, there was a lot of people say, oh, he ain't going to do it. He ain't going to do this. But I want to go back to the Latinx people who felt they would not be affected by Project 2025, so they decided to vote for this man. For those white folks that voted for him, that thought they wouldn't be affected by Project 2025, you may not be affected, but somebody in your family is. You know anybody that's a federal employee? You know anybody on Social Security? You know anybody on Medicare? Because it spelled it out all in Project 2025, but you chose to ignore it. And now you got people running around here that didn't believe he would do this, saying, oh, wait a minute, I'm not DEI. Why is he doing this to me? You're affecting my family. I'm a veteran. I voted for you. Why are you taking my job away? These people had no regard for anybody. But when they started saying DEI, you gobbled it up like soup. You started drinking the Kool-Aid, thinking that when they say DEI, it's only going to affect people that look like me. And now that we're at this point, you realize DEI is affecting more people than you thought it would. But we were the only ones loud about DEI. But it's all written out in Project 2025, but nobody wanted to listen. They didn't want to listen. And here we are. And let me rehash some of the things. These are the executive orders he's already done. For social issues, advance school choice, allow troops to rejoin the military who declined COVID-19 vaccines, ban transgender troops, close the Office of Federal Contract Compliance Programs, end diversity, equity, and inclusion programs, in government efforts to fight misinformation and disinformation, and so he can continue to lie. Enforce the death penalty and execute prisoners on death row. Recognize only two sexes. Remove diversity, equity, and inclusion from federal hiring. Rescind health care protections for sexual orientation and gender identity. Restrict federal funds from supporting abortion access abroad under the Mexico City policy. Revise the Biden administration's reading of the Hyde Amendment. Use Civil Rights Act, and I want you to hear this, use Civil Rights Acts to remove gender ideology and critical race theory from schools. Now, I ain't got nobody in school, but I'm going to go out on a limb and say critical race theory and gender ideology is nowhere in anybody's curriculum in school. But they did an executive order to do this. Withdrawal from the World Health Organization, immigration, detain migrants in cooperation. Y'all know all these things. I'm not going to go through all of them. It's no need. Because we've been talking about this for damn near 3 years now. 3 years. Because it goes into social issues, immigration, government staffing, energy, foreign affairs, and the economy. And this one with the economy. Prevent a central digital currency in the U.S. Prevent the institution of a central bank digital currency. Now, I'm not into all the cryptocurrency and everything, but by him saying this, prevent a central digital currency in the U.S., if y'all notice, the first day he was in office, what did he present? A cryptocurrency coin. So he doesn't want the government. He doesn't want the central bank digital currency to affect what he's doing. So he put this in there to prevent the central bank from being the regulators of cryptocurrency. Why? For him and his rich people, rich friends, or whatever they are, hanger-ons, whatever you want to call them, to be able to profit off cryptocurrency with no regulations, no issues, none whatsoever. None. James Battle, what's frightening is how he has turned the justice system in his own revenge group, going after everyone that he deems as a threat, even declaring that CNN and MSNBC are illegal. Yeah, I seen this yesterday, and what gets me about this is you have this president in the office that is telling you that he wants to jail or prosecute people who say anything against him. But at the same time, most of the people that voted for him are always talking about freedom of speech. How can you have one or the other? You say, and I'm going to talk about the damn Bonginos who he made somewhere in the FBI or the CIA and Cash Patel and all these people that they talk about, oh, freedom of speech, freedom of speech. But what he's trying to do is take freedom of speech away from the people who report on him every day about what he's doing wrong that's affecting everybody here in this country and abroad. Let's talk about and abroad with these tariffs, how he's broken everything with the NATO and the UN. And I mean, come on. But it's all in Project 2025. But nobody wanted to hit. They didn't want to hear that. Edgar Thomas, good morning, my brother. Appreciate you. Nobody wanted to talk about it. Why? Because they didn't think it was going to affect them. They didn't think it was going to affect them because they didn't take the time to read. And when I got on a conversation with somebody on one of my buddies' posts one time, and I said, if people would have took and looked at Project 2025, they would understand. African-American female came back at me and says, oh, so you took the time to read all 922 pages? And I responded back. I said, I didn't take the time to read all 922, but I took enough time to realize that whatever he was trying to do out of that Project 2025 is going to affect everybody in this country, which is why I'm talking about it every day. That's the ignorance that we have of some people in this country. If it's longer than a sentence or a post, nobody wants to read it. But then when it starts affecting you, what happened? Where'd that come from? He said he wasn't going to do that. Yeah, he said he wasn't going to do that. He said he wasn't going to do that. Let's get into this real quick. Fellas, it's time to elevate your grooming game. Introducing Respected Roots, the premium beard care line designed with black men in mind. Because your beard isn't just facial hair, it's a statement, a symbol of confidence, style, and strength. All right, let's talk about keeping your beard sharp and on point. First step, sculpting. Fresh lines are everything. Keeping it clean and defined sets the foundation for a great beard. Once I've got the shape locked in, it's time to cleanse. The Respected Roots Beard Wash gets rid of dirt and buildup without drying out my beard. It leaves my beard feeling soft and refreshed. Next up, the beard oil. This is where the hydration magic happens. I massage it in, making sure it gets to the skin underneath. It keeps my beard moisturized and smelling fresh all day. And finally, the beard butter. This locks in all the moisture, smooths out any frizz, and gives my beard that healthy, polished shine. Look at this. It's soft, full, and ready to dominate. From sculpting to styling, Respected Roots has everything you need to take your beard to the next level. Gentlemen, your beard deserves respect, and respect starts with Respected Roots. Use the link to grab yours today and receive 15% off. Trust me, your beard will thank you. RespectedRoots.com/Rodney 55428. Rodney 55428 on respectedroots.com/Rodney 55428. Make sure you use that when you first go into the website, and then you'll get your 15% off on whatever you purchase. All right. So let's go ahead and get into this. Look, I seen this a couple times, but also I got that. Before I get into it, let me say this. For everybody and anybody who sends me articles through Facebook Messenger, through text message, thank you. I appreciate y'all. Y'all cut my research down just a little bit. So I appreciate that. If you send me a message on Messenger, something you think I would like to talk about, or something you think I need to know about things that I've been talking about, feel free to send it to me on Facebook Messenger. If it's something that I'm looking at, I'll do some more research into it, and we'll talk about it on the show. If there's something specific you want to talk about on the show, send me a message. I can have you in. We can sit down. We can talk about it. We can find out what's going on, get your point of view from it, and move forward. This ain't no one-man show. Everybody's here. I want everybody to participate. It's called Speak On It. Not only for me, but for everybody out there. So if you want to be involved, send me an email at rwcoolins@yahoo.com. Send me a message on Facebook Messenger. Let me know, and we'll keep going from there. But I want to thank James Battle and Kevin Banks, John Chaney, Trent Branch. There's a bunch of them. You know, I don't want to leave nobody out, but there's a lot of people that send me a lot of messages through Messenger. Thomas Fawcett, I want to forget him as well. Send me a lot of messages about what's going on, these different articles they find and everything like that. And it helps me with what I'm doing for the show. Now, everything they send me ain't going to be able to get into this 1 hour show, but it's good that I get information and then I read up on it and get some information on it. So I appreciate everyone who participates. Even though I'm in front of the camera, there's a lot of people behind the scenes that are sending me things that you don't know about, and I want to thank them for sending it to me. My wife Pam, my her Aunt Jeanette, those people that are sending me things, thank you. Makes my job just a little bit easier, just a little bit. I'll get a staff one day. We about to blow up like the world. I shouldn't say that on this camera. We about to get big. We about to get big, y'all. We about to get big. But let's get into this. So, Arlington National Cemetery. Arlington National Cemetery. Y'all know when I talk about veterans and things like that, it upsets me. It does upset me being a veteran. Not that other things don't affect me, but being a veteran, when it affects veterans, it affects me. Arlington National Cemetery stops highlighting some historical figures on its website. Arlington National Cemetery is the most venerated final resting ground in the nation. Overseen by silent soldiers in immaculate uniforms with ramrod straight discipline across its hundreds of acres in Virginia, they watch over 400,000 graves of U.S. service members dating back to the Civil War, including 2 presidents and more than 400 Medal of Honor recipients. Now, before I go into that, I want to say this. When I had the honor of serving in Washington, D.C. at Bolton Air Force Base, we supported the Air Force Band and the Air Force Honor Guard. And I would tell you, on a weekly, daily basis and weekly basis, we had buses taking the Honor Guard and the band to Arlington Cemetery each and every day. Not just for one funeral. I'm talking about funerals that were back to back to back on any given day, Monday through Friday. Any given day, Monday through Friday. We had people driving the Air Force Honor Guard, the Air Force Band, there to Arlington Cemetery to bury a veteran that had received, clearance to be able to be buried in Arlington Cemetery. That's how big Arlington Cemetery is. Now, they say they're running out of space, but, you never know. They could say that all at once. April Wheaton, good morning, sis. Appreciate you. But Arlington National Cemetery is big. And while being at Bowling, I had a different view of the honor to be buried in a national cemetery like Arlington, because there's a lot of them around that you can be buried at as a veteran. But to be buried in Arlington is prestigious. Not, it just sounds kind of crazy to be prestigious about where you're buried, but it is as a veteran. But in this case, Arlington National Cemetery has begun wiping from its website histories highlighting Black, Hispanic, and women veterans. The change is in line with President Trump's directive to remove references to and support for diversity, equity, and inclusion from the federal government. Now, I'm going to ask this question. How does diversity, equity, and inclusion get brought up when you're talking about deceased service members? So much so, it says a U.S. official not authorized to talk to the media told NPR the removal of links and sections about these groups have been dubbed a digital content refresh by top Pentagon officials. Articles, photos, and videos that are seen as promoting DEI will be removed under the new approach. For example, and I want you to hear this clear. I want you to hear this clearly. For example, General Colin Powell was the first Black chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff. And the 688 Postal Corps, which we just recently really learned about in its entirety, was the first corps of 688, first corps comprised only of Black women to work overseas during World War II. Their stories are no longer prominent on the website, but can still be found using the search function. So what they're telling you is they didn't take it off the website totally. They just don't have the quick click that you can click on to bring the information forward. Now we're talking about 688. But we're also talking about General Colin Powell. The person, the distinguished general, who at one time the Republican Party wanted to run for president as a Republican, because he was a Republican. And he didn't run because of something with his wife and everything. I'm not going to go down that road, but they wanted him to run. They said he would have been a good president, but he didn't run. But then when he voted for Barack Obama when he ran, they flipped on him. Everything this man accomplished, they act like it didn't matter because he decided to vote for the first Black African-American president in this United States because he was the most qualified at the time, is what Colin Powell said. And now what they've done is he's buried in Arlington, and they've taken his name totally off the website. But if you do a search, you can find it, but it's not prominent. So everything he's done, you have to actually search for to find out when you go to Arlington's website about the National Cemetery. Also garnered dozens of academic lesson plans, some built for classroom use, others as self-guided walking tours on Arlington's history and those interred there, which means those that are buried there. Among the documents removed or hidden from the cemetery's education section are maps and notes for self-guided walking tours to the graves of dozens of Medal of Honor recipients and other maps to notable grave sites for war heroes from each military service. And you ask, and it says in this article, why information on recipients of the Medal of Honor, the nation's highest award for combat valor, would be removed is unclear. But three of the service members whose graves were noted in the lessons were awarded the Medal of Honor decades after the combat actions following formal Pentagon reviews that determined they had been denied the award, the Medal of Honor, on racial grounds. And they've taken that off the website. They don't want you to see that we had brave men that defended this country and received the Medal of Honor after the fact because they didn't get it at the time because it was racial. Reviews by the Pentagon and everybody else came back and said, no, they should have been awarded it. And now they've scrubbed it from the website because they don't want you to know about it. On at least one page that can still be accessed on search engines, language referring to civil rights or racial issues in the military appears to have been altered. A page on Black soldiers in World War II read in December that they had served their country and fought for racial justice. But now it only states that memorials in the cemetery honor their dedication and service. So let's eliminate the fact that they served this country in spite of the fact that they were fighting for justice in this country. They were fighting for a country that didn't love them. So let's take that out. They were just fighting for the country. That's at Arlington. Arlington is supposed to be one of the most sacred places when you talk about veterans in this country. And this is what they're doing. Project 2025. Rolling right on down the tracks. But it would never happen. He would never do it. Now let's talk about something that doesn't deal with the military. Doesn't deal with Latinx. This deals with the long-term effects of the injustice done to African-American people in this country just because. This right here is a picture of an industrial plant. And it says more than 200 industrial plants, primarily fossil fuel and petrochemical operations, line the 85-mile stretch along the Mississippi River. Let's hold on for a minute. James Battle, they don't want people to know about this country's racist history. You can't hide it. It's what has made America what it is today. Thank you, my brother. And this goes right into what I'm talking about. There's an 85-mile stretch along the Mississippi River that contains all these industrial plants, more than 200 industrial plants. Toxic air pollution has resulted in among the highest cancer risk in the nation and documented elevated cancer rates among other ailments, with harm disproportionately concentrated in Black communities. Now here's the rates. Let me give you the cancer rates. Let me take this down. You can see that. That's the actual location where it's at. The cancer rates along this 85-mile stretch along the Mississippi River. Cancer rates, and they call it Cancer Alley. Cancer Alley. Cancer rates in Cancer Alley are much higher than the national average due to toxic air pollution from industrial facilities. Cancer risk. The risk of developing cancer in Cancer Alley is 95% higher than the national average. 95% higher than the national average. The cumulative cancer risk in Cancer Alley is 45.8 per million, which is higher than the U.S. Democratic Republic, U.S. and in Louisiana. The risk of cancer is higher for Black residents who live near industrial sites that were built on former slave plantations. Cancer-causing chemicals, the EPA considers ethylene oxide to be likely human carcinogen. Other cancer-causing chemicals in the air of Cancer Alley include formaldehyde, benzene, acetaldehyde, carbon tetrachloride, 1 and 3 butadiene, and nethylene. Health effects. Cancer Alley residents also have higher rates of diabetes and respiratory diseases. Many residents blame the plants for their health problems. Community response communities in Cancer Alley have been fighting back against the pollution since the 1940s. This is 2025. Since the 1940s. They have organized toxic tours to raise awareness of the issue. Now, here's where it gets sticky. In April of 2022, the EPA opened an investigation into complaints alleging Louisiana state agencies had violated the Civil Rights Act of 1964 by discriminating on the basis of race, including air pollution control programs, subjecting Black residents to ongoing disproportionate and adverse health and environmental impacts related to petrochemical operations in Cancer Alley along that 85-mile stretch. Then it says, in October of 2022, a letter to the heads of Louisiana's Department of Environmental Quality, Dr. Chuck Carr Brown, and health and these other doctors, the EP say its initial investigation raised significant evidence suggesting that the department's actions or inactions have resulted and continue to result in disparate adverse impacts on Black residents of St. John the Baptist Parish, St. James Parish, and the Industrial Corridor. Secretaries Brown and Phillips have since resigned. In May, Louisiana filed a federal lawsuit challenging the EPA investigations. And then they closed the investigations. And under the Biden administration, they opened them back up. On Biden's time. Edgar Thomas. Red zone still exists. They opened them back up. And then just yesterday, sometime this week, Justice Department says ending the Louisiana petrochemical case helps dismantle radical DEI programs. The Justice Department says ending Louisiana petrochemical case helps dismantle racial DEI programs. The Justice Department on Friday celebrated its decision to drop a federal lawsuit against Louisiana petrochemical plant accused of worsening cancer risk for residents in a majority Black community, saying the dismissal shows that officials are delivering on President Donald Trump's promise to dismantle radical DEI programs and restore integrity to federal enforcement efforts. The dismissal Wednesday of the 2-year-old case underscored the Trump administration's commitment to eliminate ideological overreach and restore impartial enforcement of federal laws. Dismissal of the case unraveled one of former President Joe Biden's highest profile targets for an environmental justice effort aimed at improving conditions in places disproportionately harmed by decades of industrial pollution. Biden's EPA sued the Denka Performance Elastomer plant in early 2023, alleging it posed an unacceptable cancer risk and demanding cuts in toxic emissions of cancer-causing chloroprene. And I'm not going to read all this, but you get the gist. You get what I'm talking about. Now, this is the plant. Far in the back there, that's some of the plant. And if you look close to the front, that area, that tan looking building, that's a school where people's kids go to school. That's how close these plants are. Now, I want to say this. As I mentioned, these people in that area have been dealing with this, what did I say, since 1940? Since 1940, I think it is. I want to try to find it. I want to be right. And they call it Cancer Alley, as I said, but since 1940, they have been going back and forth with the government about the cases of cancer that are developing in the people that live there. These are some of the people that live there. These are some of the people from generations whose family members, mothers, grandparents have died from cancer. And to add more harm to this, most of these people that you see in this picture have cancer. Their children have cancer. Their grandchildren have cancer. So I'm not going to hold accountable just the Trump administration at this time. If this goes back as far as 1940, this has been a long-standing problem that was never addressed. And then when it finally got to the point of being addressed under the Biden administration in 2023, this week, the Trump administration threw the lawsuit out. Threw it out. So I'm going to ask again, as I mentioned in the beginning, when Latinx is asking us to jump on board with them, when they're asking us to jump on board with them to do these things, right? What are we really saying? What do you, I mean, when you see this, what do you think about? It's not affecting me because I don't live there. But what people say is, well, why don't they move? This question of why people don't move, you have to look at the economics, the economy of what the people that live there have in order to move. And the other question I ask people is always when they say, why don't they move? Why should they have to move? If someone came to you in your childhood home where you may live now and tells you that you need to move, why should you have to move if that's where you were born and raised? If it's a choice, it's a choice. But it shouldn't be because they're not doing what they're supposed to do to make the environment safe for me. James Battle, if that was a population majority of white people, that issue would have been addressed long ago. Long ago. Reggie P. wrote, Louisiana period has high cancer rates because of the plants. I know because I grew up right near them, near 3 of them. Yeah. I just, Julian Jones, good morning, my brother. Appreciate it. What's up, everyone? What's up, everyone? But you're right. If these people in these cities, in these parishes, as they say, looked any different, how different would the response have been? And then, I want to find it in here because I want to make sure I say this. Because it said in here, and I want to make sure I find it because it said something about now Dinka, mind you, this company is out of either Japan or China. One of the two. The EPA under Biden issued a related rule aimed at reducing industrial pollution that gave Dinka a fast deadline to lower its emissions. The company said it was being singled out and other manufacturers were given far more time to comply. The company also said the plant has significantly reduced its emissions in recent years since the sale was completed in 2015. The company wanted an extension of its deadline. The Dinka plant is located in an industrial stretch of Louisiana from New Orleans to Baton Rouge that is officially called the Mississippi River Chemical Corridor. It is known informally as Cancer Alley for the high incidence of cancer among residents who live near the industrial corridor, which has about 200 fossil fuel and chemical plants. The area accounts for about 25% of the petrochemical production in the United States. The company said Dinka, who the company is, said the dismissal was long overdue and ends litigation it is said lacked scientific and legal merit. The lawsuit was a draining attack on our business. The focus should have been on the real world data that shows no adverse health effects, even at substantially higher emission levels, the company said. The government's lawsuit said air monitoring showed that long-term concentrations near the Dinka plant are as high as 15 times the amount recommended for long-term exposure to chloroprene. So they walk away scot-free. But the people that lived there who had some hope when Joe Biden decided to jump in after this all started becoming an issue back in 1940, now it's gone. Done. Erase it, and it never happened. Erase it, and it never happened. And I got this last one. This one here. Freedom House Enterprise Ambulance Service. I want you to listen to this. A little history lesson for you. Freedom House Street Saviors. In 1967, long before television ever dreamed of emergency, a quiet revolution was beginning in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. An audacious, improbable experiment, which was, over the ensuing years, to provide the national standards for pre-hospital emergency care, paramedics. The experiment went by the name of Freedom House Enterprises Ambulance Service and embodied the disparate dreams of several dozen people. Freedom House Ambulance Service started out as a poverty program to help the blacks and underprivileged in the ghetto community, namely the Hill District in Pittsburgh. And it was out of this mix that the audacious, improbable idea of Freedom House Ambulance took shape. Take 40 people off the street corners and pool halls, half hadn't finished high school, get them GEDs, and train them to provide the most sophisticated emergency medical care possible. To provide this care, not in the hospital, but at the emergency. Freedom House also helped change the way ambulances are designed, equipped, and operated throughout the world. It was madness back in 1967. Racism was rampant. It was hard enough to persuade anyone that a layman could be trained to give sophisticated resuscitative care, especially underprivileged blacks. Why load the dice against an experiment and chose laymen least likely to succeed? That is precisely what Freedom House proposed to accomplish and did. Trained by Dr. Safar, the chairman of the Department of Anesthesiology at the University of Pittsburgh School of Medicine and father of CPR, the Freedom House paramedics and EMTs not only, I want you to hear this clearly, not only excelled, but people in the middle class communities wanted this sophisticated medical service in their neighborhoods. That is when Freedom House met its downfall. Now, you heard all the good things that this was doing in the black community and everything, right? The city decided to launch its own mobile intensive care service. There was no room in the city plans for a predominantly black independent entity called Freedom House. By early autumn of 1975, it was clear that city funding would not be renewed. Negotiations began between the city and Freedom House to sell FHE equipment to the city and to facilitate the hiring of FHE personnel into the city's system. That's all these blacks that were working for Freedom House. They had an agreement that they were going to hire them into the system once the city took over. After 8 years of dedicating their lives to Freedom House, the employees had to watch as white trainees were hired onto administrative level positions with the new city service. The original Freedom House employees had now grown from unemployables to a level comparable to the best paramedics in the nation. Some had earned bachelor's degrees, a few had master's degrees, and 3 were pre-med. And now they were once again jobless. After I just read that. After 8 years, okay. It was really significant piece of Pittsburgh racial history, which has been lost. Freedom House Street Savings. And as I read, these black men and women were the ones who set up and got emergency transportation, paramedic transportation up and running. They were the blueprint of what you see in the United States of America today. Back in 1967, Dr. Safar, and I can't remember the other guy's name, I'm sorry. Dr. Safar was the one that trained them. He is the doctor and the father of CPR. He was the one that invented and showed people how to do CPR. He took these people in the black community and turned them into paramedics. And then once the city took over, they were out of jobs. This is where, for me, I get upset. I get disheartened. Because as much as they try to minimize everything we've done, there's a certain part of me that says, you know what? History is history. You can't take it away. That's what we always thought. But when I seen this, and shout out to Kirk Chapman, who sent me this, I appreciate him sending me this because this is something that none of us, I don't think, would have known about. It just started going through the social media things. This is one of the articles that was sent to me that I appreciate people sending me. But the more I read about it, the more I read up on it, it just, I want to say this, and this is for you to pour into your children. I understand that we tell our kids they can be anything that they want to be. They can dream beyond limits to become what they want to become in this country and in this world, in this life. But there comes a time where we have to have those hard conversations with our children and our grandchildren to let them know, yes, you can do it. But there's going to be hurdles. There's going to be roadblocks. There's going to be certain areas in your life that you're going to have to persevere and fight. Fight for what you want. Not because you're not talented. Not because you're not educated. Not because you can't do anything that you don't want to do or that you want to do. You can do it all. You can have it all. But there's always going to be somebody that's going to look at you simply because of what you look like and make you feel as though you don't matter, your education don't matter, your livelihood, your life as a whole does not matter. This and these are the hard conversations that we have to have with our children at this time and our grandchildren and on down the line. And I say that because I don't want our kids to go out here blindly. And a lot of people say, well, no, I think that's a little harsh to have with your children. Let me tell you something. We didn't get those conversations. Let's go back for a minute. I don't think many of us can say that we actually had those conversations or were given those conversations from our parents or our uncles. And there's nothing against them. Don't get me wrong. There's nothing against them. A lot of the things that we understood and learned, we learned from books. We learned from the TV series Roots. We learned from seeing the speeches of Martin Luther King and Malcolm X. We learned the battles that our people had to fight through reading and different things like that, and seeing how things had changed as time had come along. But at this point, where we're at right now, these hard conversations are going to need to be had. Because I'm telling you this, because I'm guaranteeing you, and you put my name on this, these conversations are being had in those white households because they feel they have the power and the protection. As I mentioned last week, the white fear is allowing these people to instill and plant these seeds in their children that we are less than. And it was going on back in the day. I mean, there's people we grew up with that had this in their household telling them how we weren't worth anything. But we have to have these conversations. We have to have these hard conversations. And a lot of people say, well, what age are you talking about? When they can start hearing, when they can start understanding, when they can start comprehending that everything in this world is not fair. It's not fair. When you read to them these things about the Freedom House, when you read to them the things about, or talk to them about the things that's going on in Louisiana with that 85 mile of Cancer Alley, when you talk to them about how they're getting rid of these DEI initiatives, when you talk, these are things that we need to be instilling and telling our kids about. So maybe they can be the ones to make that change that we've been trying to make for so long when their time comes around. When their time comes around. Because this is not just, this will be over in 4 years. This is not a, I can't wait for the next president. I can't wait for the next Senate or Congress in 2 years. This is not one of those times. This is something that we need to be fully invested in as far as what we can do right now. The longer we wait, and we always talk about this, when we talk about that Head Start, how generational wealth, and most of the white people in America have gotten a head start as far as being able to acquire generational wealth, as far as being able to acquire these things that they say are the freedoms in this country. It's the same thing right now. They've got a head start. And why did they get a head start? Because people denied Project 2025 was going to happen. People overlooked the things this person said he was going to do. People tried to overlook the fact that white nationalism and white supremacy was growing again and becoming nationwide in this country, and not just nationwide, worldwide. Talk to your children. You have to figure out how the best way to present it to them, but talk to your children. Let them know at the time that we're in right now, it's no time to be, take the kid gloves off. I'm going to say it that way. Take the kid gloves off. The conversations we have to have now are serious conversations. And we have to have them. We have to have them. Michelle Hudson, amen. Good morning. Good morning. Appreciate you. Good morning. Appreciate you. Sharice Joseph, good morning. Appreciate you. So before I close out today, I want to put this up. As I mentioned, I'm in the life coaching realm right now. But this is something that I haven't done in a while. I haven't done my mind, body, and soul, but I want to touch on this today. The 3 Ps, and this was for 2025. The 3 Ps: purpose, power, and possibility. With purpose, I align my actions. With power, I claim my strength. And with possibility, I embrace the endless opportunities life offers. Now, I wanted to put this up today because I know, when you tune in here on Saturday mornings, we're talking about all the things that are going wrong, all the bad that's going on in this world, the things that are changing, these are things that we need to be aware of. And I had this conversation with my brother the other day, and he told me he had to shut the TV off. He wasn't even tuning into the show. He apologized. I said, bro, you don't have to apologize. Because there's a time where all of us need to shut down and let all this stuff go and then come back and pick it up. It can be overwhelming. I understand that. But as I always tell you, indulge, but don't overconsume. You can overconsume a lot of these things that are going on around you and just see and look and see that there's no way out. or think that there's no way out. But there is a way out. As I always say, God's in control. We have to keep our faith and keep our hand on the plow. Keep our faith and keep our hands on the plow. We got to keep moving forward. These things that we talk about is for awareness. So we understand the things that are going on. So we understand what's happening and how it's affecting not only us, but other folks, and how we can come to a way of trying to get past these things when the time is right and what we're trying to put in motion to get there. And I've seen this other article that I want to touch on real quick. The root. The powerful reason why white folks are afraid of a possible American dystopia, but black folks say, bring it on. A lot of folks believe President Donald Trump's administration are ushering in a dystopian America of sorts, one in which only wealthy white people will be able to survive without needing to fight one another over food, which will presumably only consist of the rodents we're fortunate enough to catch. But while many prepare to adjust for this new normal, it'll be business as usual for black folks. And I want y'all to hear this because I wanted to put this at the end of the show today. It will be business as usual for black folks who have lived in a dystopian since the day we were torn from our homeland. That's why you always hear black folks say, we're going to be all right. That's why we say, we're going to be all right. We're going to be all right. Because we've lived through worse. According to the Oxford Dictionary, a dystopia is an imagined state or society in which there is great suffering or injustice. But when have we not lived in such a state? Was not the separation of children from their parents, brothers from sisters, the destruction of black families an example of a life lived in the bitter embrace of injustice? What about living through chattel slavery? Being told that the divine created us for a life of servitude. Our ancestors had to fight for everything they received. Freedom, the right to vote, the right to live where we pleased. These were all gained not because they were given, but because they were acquired by those who would not take no for an answer. Those brave black men and women who dreamed a better future for their children and grandchildren, who would not rest until the rights they saw others enjoy were theirs. That is what it means to live in a dystopia. What we have survived is as bad, if not worse, than any author or filmmaker could ever envision. You may say 1984 by George Orwell is a dystopia, but what about 1719? The year the first slave ship arrived in Louisiana. It should be 1619. Perhaps you think Margaret Atwood's A Handmaid's Tale is an unrivaled dystopic vision. I suggest you research the experience of black women in America. Or better yet, just watch 12 Years a Slave, a dystopian film if ever there were one, and watch how Massa treated Patsy. Or watch Roots and observe how Chicken George came to be. Living in a dystopia is nothing new to us. We were born in one, live in one, and yet we never lost our joy. We created art that white people tried to steal. We created food that was filled with soul. Our dystopic experience never beat us down, for we were even able to find love. So yes, America is going through a reckoning of its own making. Those who voted thoughtlessly have welcomed a dystopia of their own making. But we know how to survive a dystopia. In fact, we can thrive in spite of living in one. And that article came from a person that writes for The Root called Lawrence Ware. And I wanted to read that this morning because, as I mentioned, and I was talking about, we need to talk to our kids, let them know what's going on. Yeah, we need to talk to them and let them know, but let them know, as this article mentioned, we've been through things like this before. We've been here. We're not new to this. We're true to this. We're not new to this. We're true to this. We have fought and fought and fought for everything that we have gained in this country. And I'll be damned if we're going to roll over now and let this one person and his minions take it away. And us go in a corner and curl up in a ball and stop fighting. That's not what we're going to do. I'm not going to do it. And I hope you're not going to do it. So when I tell you to talk to your children, I'll post this on my Facebook page and you can pull it. But it just lets you know that we persevere and we overcome. And in the infamous words of what he said in there, that we all say to each other on a daily basis, no matter what's going on, we're going to be all right. We're going to be all right. Through hell and high water, we're going to be all right. We're built for this. Oh, we're built for this. And anybody that feels that they can't handle it, find somebody that you know that's built for this and hold on for the ride. Hold on for the ride. There's a lot of things going on, a lot of people being affected and everything. And yeah, there's going to be some times where you're questioning things. There's going to be some times where you don't feel that you can fight no more. But that's when our brothers and our sisters need to pick us up and fight alongside of us. As I mentioned about the Latinx people, maybe they need to hear about this dystopia of what we've been through. See, because now they want us to team with them. Why? Because maybe they're realizing that we've been here before. We've been here before. Just remember, we ain't new to this. We're true to this. We're true to the fight of what we got to do to make it right for what we need in this country at this time. At this time. Don't give up the fight. Keep your faith in God. We're going to be all right. I appreciate everybody tuning in today. I'll see y'all again next week. I love y'all. And as I said, if you got articles that you want to send me, send them through Facebook Messenger. Send them to rwcoolins@yahoo.com. If you want to come on and talk about some of these things, come on. Send me a message. Let's talk about it. I'm a one-man show, but I'm always open to have people come in. All right. I appreciate y'all. I love y'all. Trent Brands, thank you for platform. Another great show, my brother. I appreciate you, brother. Thanks for the continued support. I owe you a phone call, too. We need to chop it up. But as I always say before I sign off, love yourself, love one another, keep your head up, and most definitely, keep your faith in God. He's in control. We got some battles to fight, but he's in control. Don't lose that faith. Keep fighting. I'll see y'all next week, and I'm out. Love y'all. Peace.